Welcome to part 2 of our show. Professor Aaron Gross, vegan, dismantling animal people factories in the US. In part 2 of our program, we continue to hear from Dr. Aaron Gross on how he advocates for veganism on a personal level and also on a broader scale with his organizations, Better Food Foundation and Farm Forward, to expose and put an end to animal people raising factories in the United States. Dr. Gross became a vegetarian in high school after learning about the unspeakable misery inflicted on animal people through industrial factories.
The incredible scale of the animal suffering was the first thing that made me want to change my diet, and that helped me leap into vegetarianism. Animal products more generally, one of the major drivers of the greenhouse gases that are causing climate change. So the environmental reasons kind of deepened my motivation.
Dr. Gross later turned vegan after discovering that the whole animal people raising sector is not only causing untold suffering to animal people and treating their human workers with disregard, but is also destroying the environment.
You really can't do right by human beings while you're supporting the current factory farming industry. Basically, a population of people we accept are going to be regularly violated. The statistics are the loss of a limb every week is normal in this industry. It's built into the business model. There is not just the consumption of animal bodies, there is a kind of dysfunction in these corporations where they are as willing to treat human beings as cogs in the machine as they are to treat animals as cogs in the machine.
As a professor at the University of San Diego, focusing on the study of animal people and religion, and food and religion, Dr. Gross sees his role there as being an agent of change by allowing students to come to their own realizations about the information they are given.
Being a professor is a very special kind of role. It's different than being an advocate. So there's times I'm out there in the world doing advocacy, working with the organization I helped found, Farm Forward. But as a professor, I kind of see my job as more focused on freeing people from delusions and from errors, from the way in which our society tends to trick people. I kind of think that's our job in higher education. So the way I end up talking about food in the classroom is really to get people to realize it's a great moral issue to begin with. What I really focus on is making sure they understand the world they're in, that they understand that these narratives that the meat industry is offering just simply isn't true, that this is the industry which, according to its own data, it has caused most of the waterways in the United States to be polluted. It's just a reality that agricultural runoff, primarily from the animal agriculture industry, has led to most water pollution in the United States. And that water pollution in turn leads to various forms of human diseases, destructions of local industries, and so forth. And what I observe is that, students will move. Some of them, of course, not everyone does, but they begin to kind of, on their own, put together that there's something about this meat industry I need to look into. And for many students, the end result is they decide they're not going to eat animals. But it's a very powerful space, the classroom. So I don't see it as a space of advocacy, but I see it as, it turns out there's many people who, when they really understand the world around them, want to go vegan. That's my observation.
Dr. Gross notices that public consensus is growing toward abolishing the animal people raising industry. He considers the importance of strengthening public resolve to effect change away from this barbaric food system into more beneficial systems of producing plant-based proteins.
And I think a lot of the question today is not, will factory farming end, but how fast will it end? And that will just have enormous benefits if we can see this transition more quickly. So it's definitely something that's of deep concern to me. So there's a number of things we need to do to achieve that aim, to keep the kind of pressure moving in the direction in some ways it organically is going.
So, to facilitate and speed up the social transformation, Better Food Foundation launched Default Veg Campaign, a simple but powerful idea that points people naturally in the direction of vegan food. At Dr. Gross University, a group of students changed the default at their cafe by changing the default of the milk served in coffee from cow's milk to oat milk.
Default veg is simply the idea of saying, the defaults have to change and they have to change in a vegan direction. When we change the defaults, anybody can choose to order that unusual item on the menu or pay the extra 10 cents for the alternative version, the way vegans now do. Paying our extra 50 cents for soy milk or something like this. You're just flipping that.
According to scientist Sophie Atwood from the World Resources Institute in the UK, studies have found that when plant-based meals are the default choice, people are many times more likely to order them. And in the United States, many leading institutions and businesses are becoming involved with the Default Veg initiative, including the Harvard Office for Sustainability, the American Lung Association, Jewish Council on Urban Affairs, and more.
Changing the default is a really radical kind of change. But the exciting thing about it is it's a really important change. It's radical in the sense of being root, really kind of going to the bottom of things and transforming things. But it's not radical at all in terms of what it's asking. It doesn't restrict choice, and it makes a lot of sense to people right out of the gates.
Dr. Gross encourages us to take action by being part of the change toward veganism. He also shares how, in his experience, trying to persuade people to make changes is less effective than sharing the truth and allowing that to motivate others toward more humane choices.
The most powerful thing you could do if you are a part of any community, and we're all part of communities, is work with that community to change the defaults of how it is serving food in a vegan direction. We're going to see an increasing situation where plant-based protein is just economically by far the better option. That's going to increase in ways that put pressure on the industry, which will go far beyond the kind of moral pressure that's maybe only being exerted at this stage. We'll kind of have a convergence of what the economy is forcing us to do and what the right thing to do is. So how do we get there quicker? One of the real keys is building a kind of public will to end factory farming.
In 2017, Farm Forward supported the production of Eating Animals documentary based on the best-selling book by Jonathan Safran Foer and narrated by co-producer Natalie Portman. The film critically examined the changes in America's farming system over the last 4 decades and presented the argument that animal people raising factories have created conditions making every person, animal people, farmers, communities, taxpayers, and consumers suffering.
And one of the things we see happening right now is a new level of humane washing and consumer deception.
One major task for Farm Forward is to combat the meat industry's attempts to deceive the public with humane washing. The organization had a significant victory in 2021 with the release of their report, Dirt on Humane Washing. Since then, Dr. Gross says there has been the emergence of a public movement to condemn humane washing, with everyone from religious leaders to consumer protection advocates becoming involved.
And so they have to lie to us. Unfortunately, we kind of want to believe the lie. And so this is where Farm Forward has stepped in and tried to work to combat humane washing. So this is one of, I think, the most significant things we can do is simply wipe away the deceptions and let the reality of the situation persuade us. Ultimately, my sense is people want to do the right thing, but there is a lot of information that gets in the way.
With the 2023 Farm Bill reform approaching, in 2020, Farm Forward partnered with 57 other organizations to petition the U.S. Congress to end bailouts to factory farms. In 2021, along with 230 other like-minded organizations, they urged the Senate Majority Leader to reject support for industrial animal people raising factories, at the same time helping to raise public awareness of these inhumane practices. Thank you, Dr. Gross, for all your vegan advocacy work and for inspiring your students to realize that the optimal choice they can make for themselves and the planet is to be vegan. May you and your team have ever more success to realize a just, peaceful, and sustainable world for humans and animal people. To learn more about Dr. Erin Gross' non-profit organizations, please visit betterfoodfoundation.org, farmforward.com.